What up, guys? Joe White here. Let me adjust myself. The door is open again. The cat may or may not be in there. But I got a little letter here, and to protect myself and the people involved, well, fuck it, I'm not going to protect the people involved. Sorry for my use of profanity, but I'm kind of ticked off. I got a letter here. This is not about pro wrestling. This is something about that hits close to here, and it involves my son. And I thought I'd share this because I'm sure that there are other cases like this out there. And I feel as if enough is enough, and this needs to be addressed. On Friday, my son comes home from school. And well, he didn't come home from school. We had a couple things we had to do before we got home from school. So he was dropped off to my girlfriend, and my girlfriend goes through his bag to get his conduct folder because I'll be honest, my son is no angel. My son is not perfect by any means. He is not well behaved by any means, and there's a reason for that. He has something called ADD, Attentional Deficit Disorder, for those who don't know what that is, and ODD, which is Oppositional Defiant Disorder. He has been formally diagnosed by a psychiatrist for this, and is currently trying to get on the proper medication for it. Now, a little bit of background about this. We've been having problems with him throughout the school year with his behavior. But this right here, this little disciplinary notice, this little pink slip, kind of makes me wonder what's going on with our school systems nowadays, guys. And I know that there's going to be a lot of topics down in the bottom about this, or a lot of comments down at the bottom about this, about, oh, you just need to discipline your son, or your son's a fucking idiot, da 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 da. Say what you want, I really just don't care because you don't live in my house. You are not my son's father. Quite frankly, you probably wouldn't know my son from a hole in the ground. But anyway, he's had problems throughout the year. Not getting along with classmates, blah, blah, blah. We've seen the psychiatrist. He was formally diagnosed. His pediatrician prescribed him Ritalin. I was kind of off-put by that because of the fact that when I was growing up in the early 90s, mid-90s, even late 90s, you had almost everybody and their mother who had a behavioral problem on Ritalin. The term Ritalin babies was coined. And I know there's a lot of other drugs out there besides Ritalin that can help with these issues, but we haven't gotten that far yet. We didn't get a chance to. When we saw the psychiatrist about this, it's not as if the teacher didn't know this was going on. It's not as if the school didn't know what was going on. Because the psychiatrist gave me paperwork to send over to my son's teacher that my teacher had to fill out, which she promptly filled out, and then gave back to me so that I could give that paperwork to the psychiatrist. Gave it to the psychiatrist, and then he made his formal diagnosis. Again, like I said, he has ADD and ODD. I have watched my son in the last year and a half transform into something that I'm not quite proud of. I'm not ashamed to say it. Again, he's no angel. He does not have a halo around his head. I've had family members who have told me, oh, a year ago they would have babysat him at any time. They were happy to have him around. And now that they've told me that they wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. It's not entirely my son's fault. I don't blame it all on the illnesses because, quite frankly, it's hard to tell, how much of it is the illness and how much of him is being a little stinker. He's gone to the vice principal's office in school a couple of times. One of those times was when I was delivering his medication to the school because the nurse I had not gotten permit or a written form from the doctor yet, which gave permission to the nurse to give him that medication daily. So I was going up to the school every day at around 10 o'clock a.m. or 12 o'clock, between 10 and 12, to give him his medication during the day. One day when I came up there to get him, or give him his medication, I should say, he was coming out of the principal's office and he had that oh damn look on his face. He knew he had done wrong. Me and the teacher then talked with the principal, and I'm now receiving daily conduct reports. So the teacher is well aware of the issue. The principal and vice principal of the elementary school that he goes to is well aware of this issue. He's in kindergarten, folks. It's not like he's in 4th or 5th grade here. He's in kindergarten. Anyway, fast forward up to a couple days ago. He's still having problems getting bad conduct reports a little bit every day, but he had some good days and some bad. And then I get this. And this is what set my top off. Granted, for what I'm about to read in this letter, my son should have been disciplined. But it's not the behavior that I have an issue with. Yes, he was bad. It's the punishment does not fit the crime. Kindergarten. Keep in mind this is a kindergartner with ADD and ODD. It basically says that my son was asked to go back to his desk to write, and he told the teacher no. Again, he shouldn't be telling teachers no. Okay? I get it. He's a little downright little shit sometimes. He yelled out in class and argued with a classmate. Kid stuff. Kids argue. Especially kindergartners. He told another teacher when she asked him to go to his seat, to the table, told her no. Again, oppositional defiant disorder. He doesn't like taking up orders. His brain tells him to tell her no. He pushed a piece of paper on the floor out of anger, twirled his pencil, and made noises. He was then told to sit in the hallway where he twirled and made noises which echoed down the hallway. It kind of makes me laugh. It shouldn't be, but again, he's no angel. I have no doubt that he did any of this, and that's not the issue here. When he was then sent across the hallway for a timeout, and he started banging his hands on the desk where he was sitting. Okay? Right then and there, after the third offense of this in a row, the school should have called me and said, "Hey, come get your son. He's disrupting the class. Go take him home for the rest of the day." I want you to note the time that this happened. 9:25 a.m., not an hour after he went to school. Now keep in mind, before he went to school, I'm not ashamed to say it, I was literally sitting him on the floor in my son's room with him, crying my goddamn eyes out because his ass couldn't behave, begging him to go to school and behave. So it's not like I haven't addressed the issue here. And a lot of people say, oh, spank his butt. It doesn't work. I've given up on it. If I'd have done half this stuff when I was in school, I wouldn't have an ass to speak of, let alone a big fat one like I do now. So instead of calling me, having me come get him, and bring him home for the day, and say, let's take him home for the day, maybe even sit out of school on Monday, give him a day's worth of suspension. I want you to read this because it's, he's got 5 days for an entire week. What kindergartner gets suspended for 5 days? Let the punishment fit the crime. This right here tells me one thing, that we don't want to deal with your son. We don't want to take the time to deal with his disability, and well, it's not really a disability, a disorder, a chemical imbalance in the brain So we're giving up and we're letting, we're giving up on his learning. He can't learn, is what they're telling me. Now, keep in mind, his grades are good. His grades are good. It's only the conduct that's an issue. Reading, writing, math, science, everything else, he's got straight A's in. He dipped a little bit in the third block of the year, but he brung it back up. So he's able to learn. He's a smart little son of a gun. But 5 days. This is a cop-out. This says we give up. The school says we give up. I've talked to several other teachers who teach for the same school district. In fact, I've talked to a couple that even teach for the same exact school. One of which says that she has been teaching for only about 7 years, and they were made to take an entire college course on how to deal with kids with attention deficit disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, ADHD, hyperactive disorder, whatever. They learn to deal with all this. The teacher that my son has is quite frankly, she's been teaching I'll put it to you this way, my girlfriend has two 21-year-old nephews. And they had this teacher for kindergarten when they were in school. So she's been teaching at least 15 years. If not longer. I find it very hard to believe that this that this teacher is just not, she just doesn't have the patience to deal with this. So she, scrubs it off and just wants him out of the classroom. Now, granted, this all happened over the course of last summer. I watched my kid go from a sweet, charming little boy to, over the course of last summer, it's like a switch went off in his head and he's just become a little terror. Again, I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's got a halo around his head. In fact, he's probably got devil horns poking out by this point. I love him to death, and I'm a proud father, but he's not perfect by any means. I'm not one of those parents to sit there and say my kid is the best ever. I want him to be. I strive to help him be, but it doesn't always happen. He's getting good grades, and I'm very proud of him for that. I also, it's just the fact that these schools have given up. And this right here proves it. 5 days to a kindergartner? So he misses an entire week of school and is going to be behind your class an entire week, that you're going to have to make that week up with him now? You're doubling your workload, lady. Also, at no point during this entire year has this school, I posted this something about this on Facebook last night. At no point during the school year has this school said, let our counselor step in. Let us try to diagnose him. Let us try to help you get the medication. Let us try to help you to help us. Now, granted, a lot of people are going to go, well, that's my responsibility as a parent. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm taking the steps to make sure he gets there. I'm having to change pediatricians because the old one didn't do it expeditiously enough, or expeditiously enough, and wanted to throw a bunch of red tape bullcrap and try to milk every penny from me that they could. I don't know. Not one point has this school system stepped in to try and help me. And I'm not begging for their help. I'm just saying, if he's that damn bad, if you can't handle him to the point where you need to suspend a kindergartner for 5 days, kindergartner! I could see it if he was in 4th or 3rd grade and he was running around hitting people every day and just being an obnoxious little bully and not getting good grades. But he's in kindergarten. And his grades are good. Not one point has the guidance counselor, which he's supposedly seen, called me and been like, look, you need to, maybe do this, or we need to create a learning plan for him that helps us deal with him when he's having these episodes and when he's being bad, and maybe there's, hell, we used to joke about the kids in the LD classes back in the day. Well, damn, if they want to put his ass in a classroom full of vegetables, I got no problem with it, as long as he behaves and gets good grades and learns something. 5 days for a kindergartner is stupid. Maybe it's time these teachers, and again, I'm not putting all the blame on these teachers. My son has every bit to do with it as these teachers do, because quite frankly, he shouldn't be behaving that way. And a lot of people are going to say, well, the ADD and ODD is not an excuse. Well, when you have a kid who is happy 1 minute and then like that goes to being a little terror, then you can comment. Once you've walked a mile in the shoes of a father or a mother who has to go through this, then you could comment on it. Or if you've dealt with people like this, then you could comment on it. And it really, it breaks my heart to think that they don't want him there. And that's all this says. We don't want your child here because we can't deal with him. Tell me what you think about this, guys. Is 5 days out of school suspension too much for a 5-year-old? I think it is. Like I said, I had no problem with 1 or 2 days. Or they, hey, this happened on a Friday, so you call me. I'm off of work every morning. I would have gladly came and picked him up and sat him in his room for the rest of the day to think about what he had done, and went and did my discipline from there. And maybe he even skips Monday, gets a 3-day week out of it. But no, all this says is that we don't want your child here for the next week because we can't deal with him. We give up. Let me know what you guys think about it. Like this video, comment on it, subscribe to my channel. There's a lot more on here than this bullshit. Sorry to be so grumpy and be a downer, but it just pisses me off to the point where I just, I want to contest this, but I know there's no point because the superintendent's going to agree with whatever the principal says anyway. And it's not even the principal. It's the vice principal. The damn principal of the school, the head honcho around there, has never once called me or spoken to me. I don't even know what her name is. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox here. Comment on this video, like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at WrestlingTruck. Facebook.com/NewSurgeLive, or you can even find me on my personal account there, Facebook.com/LittleJoe'sDad. Tell me, guys, what you think about it, or even if you have any advice on how to deal with this, let me know. I'm open to anything at this point. I would say the old spare the rod, spoil the child thing, but when it's a chemical imbalance in his head, that only goes so far. But thank you guys for watching this, and just let me know if you have any ideas. 5 days is just too much. It's just way too much, guys. Anyway, thank you for watching. You guys have a good one. Peace.